These are the 13 things mentally strong people don't do. They don't waste time feeling sorry for themselves. They don't give away their power. They don't shy away from change. Love that one. They don't waste energy on things they can't control. They don't worry about pleasing everyone. They don't fear taking calculated risks. They don't dwell on the past. They don't make the same mistakes over and over. They don't resent other people's success. Ooh. They don't give up after the first failure. They don't fear alone time. They don't feel the world owes them anything. And they don't expect immediate results. I was like, how can I even highlight my favorites here? These are good. Do you find, Amy, nearly 10 years later now, that there are 2 or 3 of these points that are really maybe the most salient or that people kind of just most relate to or are most talked about?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think the one that is most talked about is any emotion can be helpful or hurtful. So in that moment, you ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And is it helpful or hurtful? If you find it's not serving you well, okay, I've been sad, but I can't even function at the moment because I don't want to get off the couch. Then we do something what we call mood boosters. Strategy is write down the top 10 things you do when you're in a good mood. Maybe you say, when I'm happy, I turn on music and I dance, or I call a friend and we talk about fun things, or maybe I go outside, I go to the park. That's your mood booster list. And you could tape it to your refrigerator, keep it on your phone. But whenever you're in a slump, be like, I'm going to do something on this list. And I guarantee you won't feel like doing it, at least not when you start. But if you act like a happy person, the feelings often follow. So change your behavior first and be like, okay, I'm going to go out and do these things. Probably the shyest person I knew growing up. I never spoke in class, to the point that even in high school, if my teacher wanted me to read my paper, she would read it for me. And I grew up in this really small town with the same 12 kids in my class since I was a kid. I never spoke. And every report card I have as a kid says painfully shy, has no leadership skills, things like that. I gave a TEDx talk that 22 million people have seen.
Yeah.
And I think about that.
Watch too, friends. It's a really, really good talk. I love it.
And so to be able to think, okay, I had this belief that everything I said wasn't worthwhile. And so I never spoke. And then I tested it and I thought, whoa, the world just kind of showed me that perhaps some of my beliefs aren't different. And maybe I don't have to believe everything that I think.
Hey friend, I just wanted to thank you so much for stopping by and tuning into the podcast. It means the world to me. There are a lot of great podcasts out there, so it's truly an honor that you've decided to take the time out of your day to listen to mine. I'm really excited to bring on more and more inspirational guests for you. But before we get into it, I wanted to ask you a huge favor. If you're enjoying the show, would you please be so kind as to hit that subscribe button? I've noticed that over 98% of the people that watch our videos aren't subscribed, and subscribing really helps the algorithm put this episode in front of other people who it could help. And be sure to leave a comment sharing what most connects with you. So much love.
Oh my gosh, Amy Morin coming live and direct from her boat in the Florida Keys. Welcome to the Let It Be Easy podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Susie.
I'm so happy to talk to you. I love your work. I love how we connected. If I remember rightly, it was a book event in New York somehow. I don't remember even the organizer, but we got to meet, hang out. I've been following you ever since. And to have you here live, what a joy. It's a bit overdue, actually, if you ask me.
Right. Yeah. I can't believe it was that long ago. That obviously it must have been more than 5 years ago that happened. Seems like a long time ago, but on the other hand, seems kind of like yesterday. So great to see you.
I know you. So first of all, I'm so happy that we're connecting and doing this live. But also, I want to let you know that the last 2 or 3 times I've been to some pretty even random places, I keep seeing your book.
Really?
So I'm in FedEx in Brickell, right? So where I live in Miami in Brickell. Oh, there's your book, Amy. I'm at a random small airport and I see your book. And I'm like,
oh, cool.
This is a sign. I need to speak to Amy. And here we are. And your book, I feel like this is, there must be so many copies sold. 13 things mentally strong people don't do. How long ago did this come out?
So it's been 9 years. It was 10 years ago that I wrote the article, 9 years ago that the book came out. And then I have a new workbook, finally 9 years later, that's also coming out that kind of expands on it. It'll be the 13 things mentally strong people don't do workbook, because over the years, I've had so many people ask for more exercises or they have more questions about it. And
yes.
Thrilled to finally be able to put more stuff out there about it.
I think I love having a notebook that accompanies something so we can really like apply, because it's great to read and consume, but when we can apply, like really look at what those 13 things are, I'd actually love to read them out too. And I mean, truly, if you haven't checked out Amy's TED Talk, also it's such an awesome video. I love how you speak about your life and how you came to create this list. But I just want to read them out really quick, unless you could have them memorized, Amy, and you'd like.
Go ahead. I have them memorized in a different order because when I give a speech, I have a different order because I kind of break them up differently. So I don't have them memorized in the order of the book. So go ahead.
Okay, so they don't waste time feeling sorry for themselves. These are the 13 things mentally strong people don't do. They don't waste time feeling sorry for themselves. They don't give away their power. They don't shy away from change. Love that one. They don't waste energy on things they can't control. They don't worry about pleasing everyone. They don't fear taking calculated risks. They don't dwell on the past. They don't make the same mistakes over and over. They don't resent other people's success. Ooh. They don't give up after the first failure. They don't fear alone time. They don't feel the world owes them anything. And they don't expect immediate results. I was like, how can I even like highlight my favorites here? Like these are good. I mean, it's like, this is like the no excuses life, essentially. I mean, when I look at these points, I'm like, where does the self-pity come in? Where is the woe is me area that we're allowed to have here, Amy? Because it looks like it's missing.
Well, for that one, when we talk about self-pity, people will be like, well, shouldn't I just feel sorry for myself for a little while? Isn't that okay? Mm-hmm. But what they're really talking about usually is sadness. No, absolutely. Sadness is healing. If you allow yourself to be sad for a while when you're moving, you're going through a divorce, you're going through something difficult, you've lost a pet, whatever it is, like, yeah, absolutely be sad. But that's different than self-pity. Self-pity is when we are like, oh, my life is worse than everybody else's, or there's nothing anybody can do to help me. I can't possibly fix my life. And we start to exaggerate it. We get to be hopeless, helpless, and we just put ourselves in a position of staying stuck and think, there's no use in trying to do anything differently. I'm just going to sit around and feel terrible. And allow that to happen as I exaggerate all this misfortune in my life.
And Amy, you came to write this book because you had a couple of tragedies early in your life. This is why I love learning from people's direct experience. Of course, you have great training and so forth too, but like you lost your mom and your husband in your 20s within a short period. Like most people won't live through that kind of tragedy at all. It's way later in life, they lose their parents and certainly their spouse. So that was the impetus for this book. And by you looking at your own mind and what was happening just inside of you. Is that right?
Yeah, I was a therapist. So it was like, I have some head knowledge about how to be mentally stronger. I learned from my textbooks, that sort of a thing. Yes. But it really wasn't until I went through my own series of losses that I really learned about it. And it was no longer just about this is what the textbook says you should do. I really wanted to know how do you go through tough times and come out on the other side of it in the best shape that you possibly can? Mm-hmm. And as a therapist, I would see people that would come into my therapy office, and sometimes people would go through tough times and they would just stay stuck there. Be 20 years after they lost a loved one, or 20 years after something happened, and they felt like their life kind of stopped in that moment. Mm-hmm. And then I'd see other people that went through really tough times, and they were like, that was terrible. It was awful. And I learned some things from it. And perhaps I'm even a better person because of it, or I still have hope for the future, even though I've had a series of unfortunate events. And I thought, well, what separates these people? And it was really studying all of these people in my office that led me to realize sometimes it's not about what people did. It was about what they didn't do. People who didn't have certain bad habits were able to grow from pain, and they learned from it, and they were able to really reach their greatest potential. But it wasn't just about they bounced back from tragedy. The other thing I noticed was even when life was good, people that didn't have bad habits could enjoy life to the fullest. And so when I went through my own losses in my life, I just felt like I was sort of at the bottom of the barrel, the pits of despair. And I thought, what's next? And I had lost my husband on the 3-year anniversary of the day that my mom passed away. And I just thought this is cruel, this strange twist of how could life throw this at me right now? And when I wrote the letter, it was really a letter to myself called 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. I actually had no plans of ever writing a book. I was a therapist. And I found that letter, though, to myself helpful. So I published it online and thinking it might help somebody else. And I got paid $15 for it. And to be honest, at the time, I needed the money. After losing my husband, I was down to just one income. And so I would write articles occasionally on the side as a way to keep the lights on. And so I published it just thinking, we'll see what happens, but never imagined it would go viral. But it did. 50 million people read it. And before I knew it, media outlets are calling and they're like, oh, come on and talk about how you got to be so mentally strong. But I was a therapist. I don't talk about my problems. So the idea of like going on TV and sharing the backstory that, no, actually, I wrote this for myself. It's not just something I learned in college was really uncomfortable. But one of the people that happened to read that article was a literary agent. And she said, you should write a book. And I had no intentions of writing a book, but within a month of writing the article, we had a book deal. And a year later, the book came out.
That just feels so divine to me, Amy. Like how like we need this list. We need to learn from your experience. And you have this perfect blend of your own, of course, studying, research, education, and then of course, like the life experience that no one, like that can't be bestowed upon you. It's like it's something that you had to come through. And for you to share this online, for it to be so popular. What do you think? What do you think about these 13 things really connect, like really hit a nerve with people for that many shares, you have this book deal? So like, do you think there's like one thing in particular that stands out? Do you think it was a moment in time? Like, what do you think it was and still is?
Right. I think the stars were all aligned. So I do think that the fact that it just came across a few people's computers that day, like Juliette Lewis shared it and Don Cheadle shared it on Twitter. And so I had these celebrities that were sharing it, which of course leads to the snowball effect. But at the time it was really, I'd never seen an article about what not to do. You see a lot of them now, but it was really, I think the first one that was out there about, hey, just don't do these certain things. And I think nobody really talks about mental strength. I mean, we always talk about physical strength and physical health, and nobody'd really ever been talking about, well, just give up these unhealthy habits to grow mentally stronger. So I think it was a combination that people were intrigued by the idea of mental strength. I think they were relieved that I didn't give you a list of 110 things to do. I just said, just don't do these certain things and you'll be okay. And then the combination of back in those days, 10 years ago, if something became popular, it wasn't like we didn't have TikTok videos. Instead, things were shared on Facebook and Twitter. And so an article had the potential to go viral. I don't know that an article would go viral now as opposed to a TikTok video. But then it just snowballed and people was sharing it. And it just took a few media outlets. Forbes picked it up and then Business Insider, and it snowballed from there.
Yeah. Do you find, Amy, like, nearly 10 years later now, that there are two or three of these points that are really maybe the most salient or that people kind of just most relate to or are most talked about?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think the one that is most talked about is don't give away your power. And that one is really about saying I'm in control of how I think, feel, and behave. And so often, just part of our everyday language, we say things like, my coworker steals my time. My sister-in-law makes me feel bad about myself, or my boss makes me work late. And we're implying that like we're not in control of those things, but you're in control of how you think, feel, and behave. And from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed, you get to decide how you spend your time, who you spend it with. And there's consequences, obviously, but it's still a choice. And you just really empower yourself by taking back that power and changing your language and saying something like, okay, I get to do this, or I'm choosing to do this, maybe because I don't want to get fired, so I'm going to work late today. But it's not that my boss is forcing me to do it. And just that simple shift in language can make a huge difference. And I've given speeches on this topic before, and I'll have people that will come up to me afterwards. And I spoke to the National Nuclear Security Administration. And these are people in these suits, very important people who are appointed by the president and very powerful human beings for the most part. And yet this man comes up to me afterwards and he's like, I've been giving away my power to my mother-in-law for a really long time. And it was just this proof of like, no matter who you are, or what you're going through, or how much power you might think that you have, sometimes in our minds, we create this scenario that we're victims of other people. But when you really just remember, like, no, it's up to me. Nobody's going to waste my time. It's up to me. Or nobody's going to steal my time. Nobody's going to take something from me unless I give it to them. Can be quite empowering. So I'd say that's the number one thing people talk about. And another one that comes up a lot these days, especially, is resentment. There's a chapter about not resenting other people's success. And of course, in the age of social media, we know that looking at people's pictures of their amazing lives, like on an intellectual level, we know, well, that person probably has problems or they probably have struggles too. But at the same time, when we're scrolling through social media, we like really quickly forget that. And we start comparing ourselves and thinking that person has a better life than I do. My life isn't good enough. I should be doing things differently, and lose sight of, well, what are my goals and what am I trying to reach? And create a story about how other people are probably happier, healthier, more attractive, wealthier. They have everything going and for them and we don't.
And it's so simple for them. Yeah.
Right.
There's something so deeply wrong with us. So those are the two. Like they're the two that come up the most.
Yes.
Out of the 13.
Yep.
I'd love to, because I think, speaking of stars aligning, I actually had a call from a friend of mine this morning. And I was like, as I was preparing for this interview with you, Amy, and I was like, I'm going to ask Amy what she would say. And a friend of mine, he called me. He's had like a rough couple of years. I mean, personal life aside, this is kind of more business related. He's like doing a lot. Things aren't working out. Like, he used to do like a lot of live stuff. The pandemic shifted a lot of that. Like, so there are external factors, right? So there are some like just realities that have changed like how he works. But he's like, I'm working so much. It's been a couple of years. And I'm like, well, I'm speaking to the author of 13 things mentally strong people don't do. So let me ask her. And I was like, Amy, would you suggest someone take a break? Would you say because there are things, of course, no powers outside of us fully, right? But there are things that just kind of changed with the market, that things he used to do that he doesn't do so much anymore. What would you say when someone's like fed up, but they're working a lot and they're doing everything right, but it's not working? Like, it just doesn't seem to be working.
Oh, yeah. And probably most people have felt like that at one time or another, especially if you are an entrepreneur or a business owner and you just think, goodness, how do I keep up with all of this stuff that's going on? And I know as an author, I feel that pressure too. You look around at these people that are just crushing it in so many areas. And I think, I'm only one person. Where do you put your energy and your time? Yeah. So I think it's wise sometimes to take a step back and really just evaluate your life. We spend so much time planning a vacation, or people plan their wedding, and you think, well, how much time do I spend planning or designing my life? How do I want to spend it? And as a therapist, often we'll have people do like a time audit for 1 week and 1 week only. I want you to write down what you're doing like every hour.
Oh, wow.
And up front,
it's like 8 to 9 a.m. coffee,
correct.
9 to 10 meeting, 10 to 11 work. Like, you mean like that specific?
Yes.
Okay.
And people will ask them up front, like, how much time do you think you spend on, say, answering emails? Or how much time do you spend on social media? People get it way off. And it's just really eye-opening then at the end of the week when somebody's like, I spent 22 hours answering emails, or I spend 4 hours a day on social media. I thought it was like 20 minutes. And it just really helps people be like, okay, well then how do you take back your power over your time? And you might then say, well, what would I be doing in more of an ideal week? How would I be spending my time? Where would my energy go? And designing it that way, instead of just passively going through it and figuring out like, okay, I've been doing it this way for so long. We get stuck in those ruts and we get into the habits of just doing the same thing over and over. And then we misjudge how much energy and time certain things are. And we all have things that maybe aren't within our wheelhouse. It's not our zone of genius, but it's a complete time suck. And we end up putting our energy in all the wrong places, and it's easy to end up going down the wrong rabbit holes, or you feel like you're on that treadmill sometimes, the hamster wheel that you just can't get off. And I know I've been there before, where I'm like, I have this due tomorrow, so I'm going to do that real quick. And there's other things, bigger picture items I want to be doing, but I don't have time, and I don't have time to plan stuff and feel like I'm creative. And so unless I really step back and say, how do I take charge of it? Then what's going to happen? And I do believe in breaks, and I think we should all make sure that we're incorporating enough downtime into our lives too, because of course with today's technology and our smartphones that are everywhere, it's much tougher to do that, and we feel like we're on all the time. And the more that we do that, then the more difficult it is to take a break. And then when we do take a break, it's helpful, but I mean, really, like, how often do we really shut off our phones or say we're going to be unavailable? Most of us, it doesn't happen very often, but do it as an experiment. And take some breaks. And for some people that might mean just 4 hours on a Saturday, you're unavailable or you're going to go do something fun. And other people, it's taking a week off every 3 months and disconnecting. So I would experiment with stuff, but I would just really get intentional about deciding where your time goes and figuring out what's the best return on your investment of time.
Yeah, because it is overwhelming, right? When you think about all the options, like all the things that you can do, like whether you're a business owner or not, I mean, there are so many ways you can spend your time. There are so many, do this, do that. Like the world's always telling us what we need to be eating, like like where we need to be traveling. Like, and when I could just hear his exhaustion, and I was like, I don't know, I have a feeling like maybe you need a break, but maybe too, it's kind of what you're saying around. I think that maybe there was another guy recently who got an opportunity that he wanted. So I think that maybe even that point that you said about resenting, and then sometimes I think we can go into this story like, well, the universe, like this, it's not my moment, or there's something like, am I going through a weird like energetic cycle, or is it like the planets? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know about that. Like, what do you
sometimes we look for messages from the universe that maybe aren't really there, or we connect some dots and we think, well, this isn't this or that. And we can draw pretty much any conclusion we want. There's 101 ways to tell the same story. So while one person might be like, okay, it's time to take a break, the next person is all, this is evidence, I need to double down.
Right.
And just then, just looking at it from several different angles, I think is helpful sometimes. And then like, what's your agenda? Like maybe you just want permission to take a break. You don't need to get that permission from the universe. Say, I'm going to take a break because I'm tired. You don't have to look for signs that maybe it's time to take a break, and you don't need that evidence or proof.
I find that I don't. What do you think about this, Amy? Like, I think the breaks are probably the most underrated thing. Like, everyone's working so much all the time, and what I know is that like success, however we define it, often it's financial, right? It's not hard work, like, because a lot of people work really hard. Like a lot of people, and they don't really have the return that you would expect. It's not always it's not a fair thing, right? And you actually speak too about like life not being fair and that just being reality, right? Like life isn't fair. It's not like everyone gets the same opportunities. Everyone is promised. That's just that's not how it is. And so I think when you say like a time audit or like taking a pause or like a step back, I think we probably get clarity on these things.
Yeah. And people do tend to think like the harder I work, the more success I deserve, the more effort I put in, it's going to come back to me. And I started speaking about that, and I got so much pushback from people who were like, no, I worked really, really hard. I deserve good things to happen. Well, you know what? Like I work behind a computer most of the time, and I would say, yeah, I work pretty hard. But, there's like a mother in Africa that walks 4 miles to get water for her family just so they can have tea in the morning. Exactly. She outworks me.
Exactly.
And a couple hours a day, she outworks me an entire week. And she doesn't make as much money as I do, I bet. And it doesn't mean that, who's more deserving of success because she puts in more labor. But I think sometimes we get that idea of like, no, I work long hours, so I deserve to be rich, or I work really, really hard. I'm really, really good at what we do. There's a lot of factors that come into play when it comes to like success. And it's not just about the amount of time or how bad you want it. And there's all these messages on social media that are like, if you're struggling, just keep pushing, or the harder you work, the more benefits you get and
more luck you get. Yeah.
Right. These messages that like, the solution is to just press on and keep pushing harder, and that somehow then you're going to turn the corner and something amazing is going to happen at any given moment. And in our world where sometimes, take my article that went viral, for example, in that world, I think sometimes people are just like waiting, like, okay, something amazing is going to happen and I'm going to become an overnight success. And people will assume that I did. They're like, well, you just wrote that article and then you got to be an author. Now look at your life. Well, that wasn't the only article I wrote. I'd written articles for years and years and years. Most of them never went viral. I've written many articles since then. They don't go viral either. So it wasn't just like this, and granted, I think you never know what is around the corner. I was in one of my lowest moments in life, and ta-da, something great happened. But so you don't ever know what's going to happen. But on the other hand, don't expect that something great is just around the corner. And if you work hard enough, then somehow you're going to be deserving of that great thing to happen.
Which goes to one of your points. Which one is it? The world owes you. Number 12. They don't feel that the world owes them anything. That is a very nice, humble place to live, I think. It's not like, well, I did this so that, like X
Right.
equal. It's like, well, like you said, that's not how it. I mean, so I love the story too of your article, because I feel like stars did align. We needed the message. You were the person to deliver the message, and so many blessings like have come as a as a result of that. But like you said, I love the honesty. It's like, well, you probably wrote what 200 or 300, maybe, I don't know how many, but it's not about the, well, I then deserve 200 books, or I deserve
Right.
two. But it's easy to kind of, do you think that that's like our default setting, almost like to fall into the, well, I did this, so like,
Right. Because people will say to me, like, well, you went through tough times, so you deserve something good to happen. Like, no, and trust me, it doesn't equal out. Like, if I had
right.
my choice in life, I wouldn't be like, I'm going to go through all this hardship so I can write a book. Like, it's cool to write a book and all, but and so I think there's that idea. And then people think, if you're a nice person, that then things are going to come back. And I've had so many people that keep score, like karma, it's going to come back to me in tenfold.
Right.
And they're really like keeping score. Like, I helped 4 old ladies cross the road this week. So therefore, I'm going to win the lottery next week.
Right.
And vision boards, as a therapist, I have to say, people would come up with these vision boards where they're like putting these sports cars on their vision board, and they're like, I'm just going to think about it. And if I think about it long enough, these great things are going to happen to me because I'm a good person. And while I think, it's good to have goals, like, don't just expect the universe to gift you with stuff because you put it on your vision board either.
Well, this is why I love having these conversations, because there has to be like there has to be some intention that we have, but it has to be practically backed up, right? I think like,
Right.
Because I also believe in universal assistance and things just happening and the magic of that, but also just like the quiet behind the scenes stuff that no one really talks about, right? Because we're busy doing the work, and then we're like you said, I mean, it when we're resenting other people's success, I think that we just discount, even though, like you said, consciously we know that we're discounting all their problems. Like, they may be sick, they may have an issue with their sibling, like we simply don't know. It's easy for that to have all of our energy, right? And then to just feel like there's the equilibrium isn't there, or something's off. And do you think that a lot of the time we ask ourselves the question, like, what am I doing wrong? Like that, when this comes up in your sessions as a therapist, like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Like, how do you redirect that?
Well, sometimes we talk about the exactly that, where people do go wrong. And it's often the idea that positive thinking will change their lives. Well, no, positive thinking won't change your life. It's the action that often comes with positive thinking. And so somebody will be like, I've been thinking positive and I'm just expecting great things to come my way, but they haven't come my way yet. Well, positive thinking works. Well, let's say you decide to become a more positive person, then maybe you smile more. And you know what happens when you go out in public and you smile more? People talk to you and they're nicer to you. Not because you're thinking positively, but because you look friendly and you're smiling, and maybe you make some pleasant conversation. So for people to know, it's like the behavior change that really leads to changes in positive thinking, and can get the ball rolling, but it doesn't end there. You have to have some action that backs it up. So sometimes we look at, what action steps are you taking? Or why might that be? Let's say you were in a good mood when you left the house yesterday. Why might it be that better things happened to you? People approached you, people talked to you. Well, maybe it's because you had a little smile on your face, or you looked friendlier, as opposed to just, I was thinking about amazing things happening.
What's your practice like these days? Like, to stay, because I always think, Amy, that my only priority is to feel, to manage my mind, to feel as good as possible, to feel as steady. I don't even mean high. Like, I just mean to feel steady, to come back to my own state, like almost like living in the middle. What's your practice to stay there? Because, I mean, like anyone else, like human beings, I'm sure you have your, oh my gosh, I hate my life today, or why is nothing working out, or whatever may happen. What do you come back to consistently?
So I do practice gratitude. And again, I think thinking about, okay, here's the good things that happened in my day, goes a long way. And it's not just because I was thinking about it, but then you start to look for it. So if I think about 3 amazing things that happened today, and they might not be like huge, amazing things, but it might just be, I had a great conversation with Susie today on the podcast. And that's a wonderful thing that I'm grateful for. And maybe later in the afternoon, I talked to somebody else and it was a fun conversation. It's looking for the things in your day that are pretty cool. Then tomorrow I start to look for more cool things. And then I actually start to make cool things happen because I'm looking for the positive. But if I were to walk around thinking, here's 8 terrible things that happened today, then tomorrow I wake up and just expect horrible things to happen. And when we expect horrible things to happen, sometimes we kind of manifest them to happen because we, go about our day grumbling and complaining about things. And then guess what? People treat us poorly. And then we see, it just reinforced what I believed about the world. It's a terrible place. So I do practice gratitude as often as possible in the mornings before I go to bed. I don't write in a gratitude journal. There's a lot of studies that show writing in a gratitude journal is good. But for me, I just like thinking about the things that I'm grateful for. And also just reframing what I think. I can easily be the person who's like, well, if there's a 1 in 100 chance of me catching a deadly disease, I'm going to be the one. But if there was a 1 in 100 chance of me winning the lottery, I'll be like, well, there's no sense in trying. So it's just a matter of reframing the thoughts in my head. Like, Amy, is that really the only outcome? What else might happen? Or like, what's an example of something that might be beyond my wildest dreams? And then just reminding myself the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. If I'm predicting the worst case scenario, probably the absolute best case scenario, it's a possibility that probably won't happen either, but maybe something in between will happen. And just reminding myself to reframe those thoughts and then practice some self-compassion. So when I'm tempted to beat myself up for a mistake, or if I get done this podcast and I start rehashing all the things I said that were unintelligent and not very bright, beat myself up for that, I don't do myself any good. But to then be like, okay, maybe you could have said some things differently, and to just remind myself that when I treat myself with self-compassion, I also become more compassionate and forgiving of other people too.
Do you, because this question comes up to me and I was like, I wonder what Amy has to say about this. What about if you're in like a slump for like 3 or 4 days and like you've done your gratitudes and you're like, well, yeah, look, I might not be having the perfect experience right now, but sometimes I think it could even be menstrual cycle related. I don't even know, but whatever it is, if you're like in a slump for a couple of days, is there like a magic trick that you have, or do you like allow yourself to be in a slump? Like what? Because I think they happen, they don't always make sense, and we can really panic over them.
Yes. A couple of things. So one is identify how you're feeling. When you put a name to your emotion, takes a lot of the sting out of it. So let's say you've been sad for 4 days. All right, well, this is what I'm feeling is sadness. Or maybe you just struggle to find an exact word, but you're just like, blah. I've been feeling kind of blah for 4 days. And then they'll be like, okay, is this serving me well? So the second part of this is like, is this a friend or an enemy? We tend to think certain emotions are good or bad. Like it's good to be excited and it's bad to be sad. Well, actually, that's not always the case. Any emotion can serve us well at certain times in our life. If I told you, hey, Susie, I have this idea. You're guaranteed to become a billionaire. I just need you to give me $100,000 today, but I guarantee within 2 weeks, you're going to become a billionaire. And you're so excited about that idea that you hand over $100,000. Well, then your excitement was not helpful in that moment because you didn't think to ask me like, well, what's the risk I'm facing and why might this be a bad idea? We see really smart people fall prey to a get rich quick scheme sometimes because they're so excited that their excitement gets in the way. And if we're honest, probably our excitement does cause us to make some bad choices sometimes. So and then like sadness, yes, it helps you honor something you've lost, or anger might help you stand up for yourself or for somebody else. So any emotion can be helpful or hurtful. So in that moment, you ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And is it helpful or hurtful? If you find it's not serving you well, like, okay, I've been sad, but like I can't even function at the moment because I don't want to get off the couch. Then we do something what we call mood boosters. Strategy is write down the top 10 things you do when you're in a good mood. Maybe you say, when I'm happy, I turn on music and I dance, or I call a friend and we talk about fun things, or maybe I go outside, I go to the park. That's your mood booster list. And you could tape it to your refrigerator, keep it on your phone. But whenever you're in a slump, be like, I'm going to do something on this list. And I guarantee you won't feel like doing it, at least not when you start. But if you act like a happy person, the feelings often follow. So change your behavior first and be like, okay, I'm going to go out and do these things. And there's a chance doing it might shift your mood. So I'm going to go outside and go to the park, or I'm going to call a friend and we're going to go for a walk. And when you do those things, just give it a shot as an experiment and say, all right, well, maybe that lifted your mood just a little bit. If it didn't, try something else on the list and keep trying things until you figure out how do you get yourself out of this slump if it's not serving you well.
I love it. So you identify the emotion. you then ask like what the not the payoff, but how is it showing up? Is it necessarily maybe you actually need a rest? Like maybe that's it, right?
Yep.
Maybe it's actually a creative time when you don't realize it. Like you do sometimes you don't even know, right? So you identify whether it's helping you or hurting you, and then I was just thinking like what things do I do when I feel like really good? I have to say like I dress up. Like I dress up when I want to go out for lunch.
And I love that because if you were in a slump and you said, I'm not feeling it today, but I am going to dress up and I'm going to go out to lunch, that might shift your mood.
Yeah, I think it really would actually. I mean, I can always tell if I'm in a slump, I'm like, I don't want to put any makeup on. I'm just going to be in my robe, like just, skulking around. And then I'm like, oh, what if I did my hair and I slipped on something? Like maybe, I don't know.
Right.
So it's like an opposite action, like whatever you don't want to do, because you don't feel like it's certainly in that moment. You're like, I can't even be bothered to put on my self-help tapes. Like that's how
Right. And in therapy, we'll often encourage people like act like the person you want to become. So if you said, because people will be like, okay, Amy, I need you to make me a confident person. Like, well, what would a confident person do? Well, they would dress up, they'd go out to lunch, they would smile at people. Okay, go do those things.
Yeah.
And so sometimes like, okay, I want to be a happier person. Well, act like a happy person. What would a happy person do today? Or what would the happy version of myself do today? And it's just about taking those, and I don't guarantee it's always going to work. Sometimes we're in a slump and you're like, gosh, I'm dragging myself out of the house and maybe it doesn't work, but at least you tried something. And then you say, what's something else on my list that I might try? And just consider it an experiment. And you keep experimenting until you find something that works.
I also love this too because it's not like deep, heavy work. I've always believed like that so often a big, powerful shift can be subtle. It's not like, spending 6 months doing like past life regressions or like really reliving all of the like trauma. I'm like, I like my trauma like deeply buried. I always joke. I'm like, I don't want to go. But even to like this list of 10, like what is it? It's not like going into the abyss because sometimes I think that I mean as a therapist what do you like what do you think about that, because I know that there's work to do and we want to understand our origin stories and all of those things, but we don't always have to go there.
You don't. People come into my therapy office and they're in a rough spot and they're like, Amy, I can go back and revisit my childhood for the next 6 months, but like I am in a rough spot today.
Yes.
And so I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist, which means I like to help people figure out like, how do you change right now? And sometimes it is a matter of then we might connect some dots. So like, yes, you get in a slump maybe every year at this time because when you were a kid, you maybe lost somebody or something terrible happened, or you get in a slump when you get rejected because it kind of reminds you of something that happened when you were 8 years old. Sometimes we do connect those dots or we figure out what triggers certain things. And we can then say, something from the past, and you might have to heal some old wounds. But I don't think we need to like, I know some people are like, I'm going to interpret my dreams and I'm going to work on, healing every childhood wound from all these years ago before I can move forward. And it just was like way too daunting. Sometimes it's okay to just say, let's focus on the here and now. And people were often relieved when they came to therapy. Like, I'll help you learn some new skills in like 8 therapy sessions or less. If you want to go into deeper work, we could do that. But you might find that when you start living a life that has some of these different habits in it, you give up some of those habits that are keeping you stuck. Then suddenly maybe you're able to work through those things in a different way, or maybe those things don't affect you the same way that they used to. And we don't necessarily have to spend weeks and weeks and weeks talking about those things.
Isn't it a remarkable thing that sometimes you can have like a belief upgrade to something that's true? Like, so you kind of I just want to look at your list again here, but okay. Don't give up after the first failure, right? So a belief could be, if I'm not good at this the first time, I'm never going to be good. Right. Sometimes I think, especially high achieving women,
Yes.
I notice it's like, unless I've got this all figured out right out of the gate, like then I'm going to lose. Like I may as well give up. Like, so not giving up after the first failure. So imagine if you said, okay, well, you know what? I've got the identity of a learner today. Like, and I'm going to be in this fun experimental place versus like do or die energy.
Right.
Even though like the task is the same, like the task at hand is the same thing. Isn't it remarkable? Couldn't you just weep at how powerful like we are as humans, given that we get to choose what the belief is?
Yes,
Right?
absolutely. And
cry.
like that idea of like, go big or go home. Well, most people that have that attitude, like they end up going home. But so to be able to say, how do I shift my beliefs? And if I used my own example, it's kind of awkward now because I'm the person who gets out there and talks about mental strength. But a couple of times I was just like, I'm going to test these beliefs. So I was probably the shyest person I knew growing up. I never spoke in class, to the point that even in high school, if my teacher wanted me to read my paper, she would read it for me. And I grew up in this really small town with the same like 12 kids in my class since I was a kid. I never spoke. And every report card I have as a kid says painfully shy, has no leadership skills, things like that. I gave a TEDx talk that 22 million people have seen.
Yeah.
And I think about that.
Watch too, friends. It's a really, really good talk. I love it.
And so to be able to think, okay, I had this belief that everything I said like wasn't worthwhile. And so I never spoke. And then I tested it and I thought, whoa, the world just kind of showed me that perhaps some of my beliefs aren't different. And maybe I don't have to believe everything that I think. And another one was I was a chubby kid and everybody told me you're big boned and you're going to be big for the rest of your life. And I believed that like hook, line, and sinker, like, okay, I'll just always be overweight. And then like I lost weight as an adult and I did this like 6-pack ab things just to see if I could do it. Yeah. And one of the first things my trainer says to me is he's like, you have really good genes. And I was like, funny you say that because my entire life I was right. I was told I didn't. And it was just amazing to be like, wow, what beliefs do I carry around with me that I have believed 100% about myself and they're not even accurate. And it's something I've helped other people with for years, but yet still uncover some of those things in my own life where I'm like, just because you think this about yourself or the way you see yourself isn't the way other people see you.
I always think to myself, what beliefs do I have that are invisible, that are holding me back? Like, how can we even identify them? What if we're like, no, I'm pretty good. I'm right now about everything, right? Which is, no one's like waking up thinking they're wrong.
Right.
Well, those people can't be trusted. Those opportunities don't exist for someone like me. Like all these, it feels very real. Like it feels like, oh no, this is reality. How'd you go about helping someone uncover beliefs that maybe they don't even realize that they have? Like, where's the places?
So what we'll do sometimes is we'll say, like, if you say no to an opportunity, you turn something down, you decide not to do it, ask yourself, well, what would that mean if I did? So let's say this opportunity comes along and somebody says like, hey, Susie, I want you to try out to be a singer. And you're thinking to yourself, like, that's not really my thing. I think I'm going to turn it down. Well, then why? What would that mean if you tried out and you didn't make it? And then maybe you're like, well, I wouldn't make it. Okay, well, what would it mean if you didn't make it as a singer? Well, I would embarrass myself. Okay, what would that mean if you embarrassed yourself as a singer? Usually by the third time you say, what would that mean? You get to it. So you might then say, it might mean that I'm not good enough in life. So I always tell people when you encounter something, some sort of obstacle, something that you're turning down, ask yourself 3 times, what would that mean? What would that mean? Well, what would that mean? And almost always the underlying beliefs are like, I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable enough, that people aren't going to like the real me if they saw me, and that this will prove it. So for somebody who says, I really pride myself on achieving things, and they turn down an opportunity, it's probably because they think I'm not going to achieve it. And if I don't achieve it, other people are going to see that I'm not actually as good as they think I am. Or if I put myself out there and I try to do something and it doesn't work out, then it's going to mean I'm actually not good enough. Or it means that, other people don't like me. Usually boils down to beliefs like that. But if you ask yourself, what would that mean? What would that mean? Wait, what would it mean if? And by the time you get to the third one, you can usually uncover a belief there that is keeping you stuck.
Isn't it funny too how like we're all so similar, how it's all like the enoughness when it comes to like asking the questions like what would that mean, what would that mean, what would that mean? Do you find that it always pretty much comes down to I don't feel like I would be enough for that thing, or maybe I don't have enough within me?
Yes, it's almost always I'm not good enough or I'm not like lovable enough. We worry that we're either like disappointing ourselves or disappointing the people around us, and we think that doing certain things, putting ourselves out there, taking a risk will somehow just prove like what we already know, and that it will come to light and it will just make it known perhaps to other people. And no matter who was in my therapy office, whether it was somebody with a really high profile job or it was somebody who was struggling in life and a college student, really when we would boil it down, it almost always came back to those kinds of things.
And can't this, like, as a result, then I always think, can't this give us all peace? Because we're not all so different. It's not like, oh, everyone else is like fine and figured it out and they're definitely enough, but me, I'm the one exception. Like, there is this double standard just for us. I always think, having learned that, so many of our fears are just the same. They really boil down to those same things. I always think, well, then people don't need to make me nervous. And other people don't need to feel like intimidating to me, or I can really connect with anyone because, hey, we're all just here. It's a lot more work than we thought, like get it going through life. But, there's always like just these truths that connect us. And I find it very soothing.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that, because as a therapist, I got that inside scoop, right? Every person that came in my therapy office would say like, oh my gosh, everybody else is so confident and I'm insecure. Well, then the next person comes in and says something very similar, but you wouldn't know it by looking at people. I mean, most of us have our best selves on the outside. You have no idea what people are going through on the inside, but we assume that they do. And sometimes we also think that our insecurities are written across our foreheads, but they're not on anybody else's. So we think everybody knows I'm nervous, or everybody knows I'm struggling with this, or everybody knows I grew up in this way, or that I've had this problem. The truth is they don't. But yet we often think that. And I think there is some peace in knowing, nobody has it together. And most people all struggle with the exact same things. It's just we don't talk about those struggles very often.
Oh, I know. And when it comes to like the right type of media, so if someone's like, of course we need to get your book, of course, and the accompany workbook is out on what date, Amy? So we know?
February 28th.
February. And what can we expect from that notebook to allow us to look at the habits, look at the behaviors? And look, these aren't conscious, right? We're not waking up going, oh, today I'm going to fear being alone. Today I'm going to shy away from change. Today I'm not going to take any risks. Like it's not like we're waking up conscious, aware of these things, right? Like these things are all invisible, hidden. It's our job to uncover them, right?
Right. Because every once in a while, somebody will read through the list real quick and be like, oh, I don't do any of those 13 things. I bet you do sometimes. Because if the truth to be told, like we all have bad habits in life. And like, that's just life. And it's okay to have bad habits, but to be more aware of them. Yes. And so in the workbook, I walk people through each of the 13 things. And there's quizzes to help you identify maybe when you do something. Like it's easy to not feel sorry for yourself when life is amazing. But then when you encounter a obstacle in your way, something bad happens, that's when it gets triggered. So I help people figure out like, when do these certain habits get triggered? When do you engage in them? Why do you do them? And then there's all these exercises that can help you figure it out. So even like naming your feelings, how do you do that? How do you figure out your mood boosters? So those sorts of exercises are all in there straight from my therapy office to help people figure out, okay, if I do one of these things, what's the solution? What kind of strategies can I work on a daily basis? And I really wanted people to figure out, how do you build your own mental strength plan? And what can you do? You don't need to do 101 exercises a day, but let's pick a couple that you can work on a daily basis to grow stronger.
And is this something that, this never ends, right? It's not like we arrive, like we're like, oh, I'm good. I don't do any of these things. And I got my mood boosters. Like I'm fine. This is always like, there's always a new level, right? There's always something new for us to learn, a new way to expand, a new way to become more conscious.
Yeah, that's very true. Like physical strength. You don't go to the gym for the week and then be like, I never have to work out again. Life is good. It's an ongoing process. And as life changes and as things shift in your life and you grow and you learn and you go through different things, you're going to battle different things and you need to work on different areas. And sometimes mental health issues crop up. If you develop depression, it doesn't mean that you aren't strong enough. It just means you've got a complication that's going to make it difficult to build mental strength. But here's what you can do anyway. Or you're going through a divorce or a breakup, or you have kids, or the kids move out of the house. Different seasons of our lives, certain things are going to be more difficult than others.
Amy, I love this question. I feel like I can't wait to hear what it is that you're going to say. Because there's so much here to talk about. When I look at what you share, your own experiences, like the teachings that you bring, it's so big. It's so powerful. And if you had to, just say that you were in front of like a group of like, say 16-year-old kids, right? Say like there are 1 million of them and you could only like really give one message. right? If you had to like just distill it, like or say, oh, like, and that was it, like fly by. I mean, of course, your materials exist and it's wonderful, but if you could just say like, or maybe what you'd tell yourself too, if you were in that room, like as a younger person, like what do you think? Like if you had to simplify or just make if there's one message to just really like that's a clincher for you, like could there be one?
Yes, I would say don't believe everything you think. Your brain lies to you. It will underestimate you. It will tell you that you're not good enough. It will come up with 101 reasons why you shouldn't do something, convince you not to try, and tell you that if you do try and you fail, it's bad. So just don't believe everything you think. Recognize that there are exceptions to the rule. And when your brain places a label on you, just ask yourself, like, what's some times that that's not true? So if let's say you call yourself a name, you call yourself stupid because you messed up on a math test. Look for evidence. So like, what's the times when you were actually really smart? Maybe you aced a spelling test yesterday, or you did a really good job on your history exam. Look for the evidence to the contrary, just to remind yourself that your brain lies and you don't have to believe everything that you think.
I'm going to go back and tell my friend this, who I spoke to this morning. So he thinks that he's failing, that, he's just, there's something wrong. I wonder if I would just say like, oh, all those things that you're thinking, like, what if this is like a new up level for you, right? Like, what if this is like a cycle that's changing your foundation a bit, that's absolutely paying off, right? Because sometimes we don't know the outcome, but we love to take score very soon, right? Measure something, say good, bad, right? Because our thoughts, like you said, the thoughts will be like, this is bad. This is bad. It's like, well, I don't know. Like, could this be a season that's really necessary? And could there be like a very positive outcome? And haven't you already succeeded before? And are you even really failing? Like, compared to what?
Funny you say that. So if we were to say, look at elite athletes, like let's say a baseball player, slumps are normal, right? They're going to have some games where they do really well. And then there might be 5 games in a row where they strike out a lot. And it really depends on their future performance, depends on how they handle those kind of natural highs and lows. So when they've studied elite athletes, they know that when somebody's in a slump, sometimes it's just a matter of accepting it and knowing that it will get over. It's when somebody panics because they're like, oh my goodness, I did horrible yesterday. I can't do bad today. And you step up to the plate thinking, I better not strike out. I'm so stupid. I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm going to lose my contract. And you start having like this panic moment where you think all these negative thoughts, it actually makes the slump last way longer. So for somebody who can just be like, yeah, this is part of the game. There are going to be natural highs. There's going to be natural lows. It will end. And that's okay. And when it does end, I'm going to enjoy the highs. They tend to get out of a slump much faster than the people that panic and think, I have to switch up my stance. I have to do something different. And then they really tend to keep themselves stuck longer. So for your friend, maybe just that, accepting there's highs and lows. And right now I'm in a slump, but this will end and things will change. And it might not be that I have to scramble to start doing everything differently because it's that panic mode that might keep me stuck there longer. Maybe it's just accepting, oh, okay, this is where I am right now. And I'll come out of it at some point soon.
Amy, gosh, I love this conversation. I love talking about nothing more than this. Like, truly, like the power we have with our minds, how, like, as creators, like, one thing I always love to end the podcast interviews with is this question, because, with Let It Be Easy being such an important message for me that I love. What's one thing that you do, Amy, consistently in your life that allows it to be easier?
I think, probably just incorporating physical exercise in my life makes everything easier. If I didn't make that a daily habit, I love to run, and I don't like to run far. I like to run fast. So people think I'm nuts because I time myself to run a mile every day and then I jog back. But I'm not, I'm not racing anybody but myself. I just try to beat my time from yesterday. And because I know, like, okay, I have that to look forward to at the end of the day. It's like a 6 minutes of sprinting that really slows life down and it feels terrible to me. But on the other hand, like in the moment, it's not fun. But I really like that I do that and that I consistently, like, no matter what I'm going through, no matter whether it's a busy day or whatever it is, like I have that I think kind of just anchors me. As I say, anchor because I live on a boat, but just knowing that I have something like that I can count on every day, just really helps. I think makes everything else in life easy. Like, so what? And I just want to make sure that I have that I spend my time well and stay as healthy as possible. And that's one of the things I think that just makes it, I don't spend 4 hours at the gym or anything like that. But if I know I'm going to run a mile as fast as I can today, somehow that makes my life easier.
And like that, it's like that self-trust that you build too, right? Because you do it. I'm sure there are days where you can't for whatever reason, but it's like coming back to building that relationship with yourself, where this is where you show up for yourself in this one way.
Yes. And it's me, it's a great opportunity to practice like all the skills, right? Despite doing this all the time, you get to the 3/4 mile mark. My brain is like, stop. And telling me I can't go any further. You can't keep up this pace. And it's like a tangible way I get to be like, actually, I don't believe you, brain. I can make my body keep moving whether you want me to or not. And I get to like test all of the things that I talk about all day and put it into action in a tangible way, which for me is really fun.
And this to me is like my favorite takeaway from all of this, like the fact that this can be fun, right? It's not like this deep, heavy, like this, it's almost like you're stepping into this like dark. It's like, no, look, you're having fun with yourself. Like, why do we have to be so heavy to heal all the time? Or why is that the misconception? There are lots of ways. We can have mood boosters. We can keep promises to ourselves. We can test the lies that we believe so much by showing up for ourselves in these small ways. Like, Amy, I love it. Can you tell us where we should go to find out everything about you? Just over to you now for a moment. Like, where does everyone go who's listening, who wants to find out more, purchase more? Like, tell us.
Sure. So I am the editor-in-chief of Very Well Mind, a mental health website, and I am the host of the Very Well Mind podcast, which you will be on soon. Yay. So if people go to verywellmind.com, they can check out the podcast and lots of our articles about mental health. And my personal website is Amy Morin, LCSW, as in licensed clinical social worker.com. And there's info on there about all of my books.
Amy, what a joy. Like, what a joy having you on the podcast. I love this topic. I love how you approach life. I love your work. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. This was fun, Susie.
So much fun. So, my friends, until next time, please take heart. Check out Amy's work. Look at areas in your life where you may be held back without even realizing it. We are powerful creators, and Amy has incredible resources for you. So, until next time, my friends, love and ease.